Hi everyone, it's Elaine Guinn. Welcome to this episode of In Your Neighborhood. Today I am with Ross
Martinie Eiler.
Thank you. and I'm at the Catholic Worker, and we are in, what is the neighborhood called?
We're up on the hill.
Robert.
We're in between Crestmont and Maple Heights. So
Okay.
we're
In between those two neighborhoods.
right off 11th Street between Mills Pool and Opportunity House.
Okay, awesome. And I invited Ross to interview with me today because I'm going to be doing a series around Father's Day, the week of Father's Day, and Ross was somebody who I would see out in the community at city meetings with his kids, and I've always admired that, and I also have always admired the environment that Catholic Worker provides for people and getting them back on their feet, because they have a true community here, and I thought it might be nice to share with others what it is Catholic Worker does, because just like myself, before the first time I came here, I thought it was somehow affiliated directly with the Catholic Church.
Right.
And I thought it was somehow different, and
Right.
I had opinions.
Yeah, totally.
I had opinions.
Totally.
And my dad and I
Yep.
came here to visit, which was really nice.
Uh-huh.
And I was telling Ross, we were talking off camera about this, that the first time I came here, someone had finished some sort of a platform to tap dance on for sound.
Yeah,
which
clog dancers.
Which I think is amazing. And somebody just broke out like a guitar, and someone maybe had a harmonica, and this impromptu jam session just happens. And it was, my dad still talks about this, and he still asks about you. He's in a
that's
nursing
great.
home now.
Yeah.
But we'll have to come back sometime. It was very
Totally.
memorable. So,
Good.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about Catholic Worker. I know quite a bit now.
Sure.
But for people who aren't familiar.
Sure. Should I address the screen or for you for this
I
one?
love it if we just talk.
Yeah, totally.
Tell
Yeah,
me.
so this is the Bloomington Christian Radical Catholic Worker. We're part of a network of intentional communities called the Catholic Worker Movement. It was started by some devout Roman Catholics, but has we have no institutional connection to the Roman Catholic Church or to any other church. And the story of what the Catholic Worker is a really long one, but I would say, like, in sum, it is the idea of the Catholic Worker Movement is that if people actually lived the way Jesus said that you should live, you will find yourself in a radically countercultural posture that can usher in a real revolution of the heart that can make the world a better place. And we do that primarily by embracing communal life, voluntary poverty, radical hospitality, and active nonviolence. So I can kind of go into those. So I can go into those pieces at length. But what it means, sort of, in this neighborhood, is we have right now an intentional community that has, at this moment, we have 4 families, and now, right now, 2 singles, so 2 young singles and 4 families with a total of 9 children who share 4 houses. And then we have 7 beds for folks who would otherwise be homeless to live in the houses with us. So we have like a common life where we pray together and we eat dinner together, and then we offer hospitality in our homes to people who would otherwise be homeless, and we share all these things, and we try to do it living as simply and peacefully as possible.
Which I know that has to have its share of challenges.
Oh yeah.
Very recently, I've opened up my own home to some roommates, and some of my roommates are people who are in recovery recently and working on sobriety and things like that. And it does have its share of challenges, but we were sharing off camera. This, to me, it's more than just my personal philosophy. There's science behind this, that having a sense of belonging, having community, having somebody who has your back and is just on your side.
Right,
Feeling like you're seen and heard, and in short, love is the answer.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a society, and I mentioned this in my book that I'm writing, Being Chased by a Bear, which is about hypervigilance in the human brain, but how disconnected we've become as a society, and it's more than just lack of empathy. It's just like, it's hate. it's turned into hate and despising someone for their differences. And so I think it's so beautiful what you have here at the Catholic Worker and how it's set up. I wish I could take a camera around and show everyone just how amazing it is here, because you have your gardens. Everyone's working together, and I'm not saying that doesn't come without some bumps, because trust me, I know sometimes that does, but this is the answer. I mean, hundreds of years ago, if our neighbor had their house burned down, we would take them in. We wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm sorry that happened to you. When's your insurance going to kick in?" You know, I mean, and that's what people do now. They, "Oh man, that's sad that you're going through that. That's tough for you," and nobody helps. Nobody, reaches out.
Yeah, it's also very class based in that, like, if you, as you know, if you go to one of the shelters in town and you say, "Hey, who here growing up had someone live in your house, crash, take the spare bedroom, sleep on the couch for a couple weeks because they didn't have anywhere else to go?"
Yeah.
Every hand goes up. Yeah.
We did. My family did. Right. I mean, we had a kid that I was growing up with,
totally.
Left home, and it is. Yeah. I mean, thank you for bringing that up, because classism is alive and well, and that's something that, needs to be, we need to raise awareness about.
But we live in you said the phrase, like, love is the answer, and it was a quote of Dorothy Day, who was one of the co-founders of the Catholic Worker movement. She would say that an awful lot. But she also talked about the reality of loneliness, and that loneliness being one of the sort of great undiagnosed realities of our atomized individualist modern culture.
It is.
And that the answer to loneliness is community. And it's not easy. Living in community is very difficult, but but we're not lonely.
Well, and interestingly enough, I mean, having you living in a community setting, and something that I noticed when we were at New Hope, because it was somewhat of a community, a little, pretty close, but slightly different. One thing that I noticed in just human behavior, and I also talk about this in my book, is we're all mammals, and you notice behaviors in mammals. And so the intro of my book talks about a dog, and if we were to see a dog out, rooting around looking for food, and we can tell that it's a stray. Right. We have a way. It's like our brain is processing this. We can tell that approximately how long it's been astray based on certain behaviors. Like if it's a puppy or a dog that hasn't been outside much, it's probably going to run up to you quickly and be welcoming. But if it's a dog that's been sleeping rough for a really long time, it's more guarded. It's had some struggles. And the thing is, we can look at this dog and say, something happened to you. You've had a rough road. Something happened along the way, and we make accommodations. We might move slower or gently, or we might lay out food, and we don't ask questions. We don't say, you deserve this or not. Right. We lay it out there. But the thing is, if you replace that dog with a human, everything seems to change. Not here, of course, but everything seems to change. And my hope is that we can look at human beings one day and say, something happened to you, and here, and make accommodations with our behavior. The reason I bring that up is living in a community. A lot of times those things, like sometimes somebody, like if a dog is wants to hide and go hide under the bed, we accept that. Right. But when somebody is living in a community or in a homeless shelter, so-and-so keeps locking themselves up in their room. Right. Instead of accommodating that this is scary sometimes to be in a situation when you're around so many people, even though love is the answer, it takes time. And I think that's just for conversation's sake, something to note, that it does have challenges, but it's worth it, in my opinion, because love is the answer. We just don't talk about that in more professional settings. So another thing is I wanted to talk about a little bit is the Catholic Worker Catholic. Is it tied to the Catholic Church?
Right. So we part of the Catholic Worker history and umbrella is that part of the politics of the Catholic Worker movement are anarchist. So the founders of the Catholic Workers called themselves Catholic anarchists, really emphasizing the decentralism, social teaching of the church. Now, as a result, the Catholic Worker movement is decentralized. So there is every community is totally autonomous. There's no headquarters. You don't get any support from anyone. You don't get any orders from anyone. As a result, the Catholic Worker is super diverse, which is one of its greatest strengths and its greatest weaknesses. And so anything I tell you about the Bloomington Christian Radical Catholic Worker I could name you a Catholic worker community that's the exact opposite of it. So some Catholic workers are like super Catholic. You have to be in full communion with your local bishop to be a part of the community. Some Catholic workers are like totally post-religion, like not interested in the God thing at all. They just think this is a good way to live, etc. Our community is kind of in the middle. So we're a Christian intentional community that really tries to be rooted in the Sermon on the Mount and in Jesus, but we have no practicing Roman Catholics in our community at all right now. And so we sort of we try to do a big thing. And certainly like we welcome, and we're also like, we're not proselytizing. So for our guests facing homelessness, we don't preach at them or make them go to church or try to convert them or anything like that.
Which I think is wonderful. It's just respecting diversity and respecting individual preference, and what someone wants. So, well, thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Some other things that I would like to talk about is tell me about yourself as a dad. I mentioned that I am. I just think you and your wife, Andrea, are just amazing, and you're a great dad. And I can see that. I mean, we would be in meetings at City Hall, and here your kids are with this little lunch, and you're pulling them in a wagon on a bicycle, and they're like eating apples, and it's just that's just amazing. And I'd like to share more of that with people. Talk to me about how many kids do you have? And
sure, I have 4 kids. Paul, Tressa, Simon, and Emmanuel, who are 10, 8, 3, and 2. And they're great. They're wonderful. My wife, Andrea, is amazing, an amazing woman and an amazing mom. So that makes being a good dad a lot easier. But yeah, it's definitely, and certainly like raising kids in this community is really great because they're surrounded by other adults who are very natural and organic role models and who bring things that like we don't have. So like our community mates, like David and Laura, for instance, they are very goofy, playful parents. I'm not goofy and like I'm happy, but like I'm not goofy and playful and like throw caution to the wind type of guy. But they definitely get that from other folks in the community.
That's wonderful.
And Andrea once heard or read something a statistic she throws around. I don't know the sources, but she said that one of the best indicators for resilience in adulthood, for being a resilient adult, is whether as a child you had a non-parent adult take real interest in you. Having someone who's not your parent know who you are and take interest in you is the best indicator for a resilient adult. I don't know what that comes from, but it definitely in our community it's a really gift to have that our kids grow up knowing that there are these other grown-ups who know them and know their strengths and know their weaknesses and know their interests and know their dislikes and that's an important thing.
It's interesting that you would mention that. The study was called the Resilient Child.
Oh, you know about this?
Yeah,
okay.
It's called The Resilient Child, and actually in my teaching curriculum, that the big focus was on teachers and how teachers can take an interest in a child. Sure. But what it made me think about when I was learning that study was my grandmother, who I only saw once a year. We might have to hang on one second. I'm going to pause. And we're back. We had some mowing.
That's right. Community mates mowing the lawn.
Yeah, a community mate. I love that. But what I was saying is that it made me think of my great grandmother, who I would only see a few times a year, but she took such great interest in me. I mean, I know that even though I experienced early childhood adverse experiences, I had resilience because I was very cherished by both of my parents, which I mentioned to many people that just because my dad was an alcoholic doesn't mean he didn't absolutely love and cherish me. I always felt that. But I did have other people in my life that were there, and it does build resilience. And so I can tell you have very loved and resilient kids, you know. So if they do experience a trauma, they'll recover. You know, we all experience trauma. It's how our brains develop during those first 3 years that are the most important. So tell me more about being a dad. What do you love about being a dad? And
oh, that's good. That's interesting. I definitely I'm finding that, like, you know, I love the older my kids get, being able to do like sort of share myriad experiences with them is important to me. Babies, I'm not good with babies, so like which is a blessing. My wife loves the baby stage. She really excels in that.
Works.
It works. So like once they're like really good talkers, then I'm like, bring them on, you know. At that point,
throw them on a little pack on your back, and you know.
Totally. So, and it's fun. Like we my brother, we're not able, probably because of the voluntary poverty component of the Catholic Worker, we don't have a lot of money. We don't do a lot of travel. But my brother lives in New York City, and so when my oldest son was 8, I took him on a trip, and we visited, stayed with my brother, and saw the city. And so now my daughter is 8, and so we're gonna do that. So like that's something I really cherish, is being able to, you know, create experiences and spend that time with our kids. There is, you know, the and this is also part of the trade-off of the Catholic Worker lifestyle, and the voluntary poverty part of it is we very consciously try to limit how much money we make and how much we work for money, but that does result in a relatively a lot of time to be in the community, to work in the community, and to be at home. So you know, my wife and I are able to be really active parts of their so we have homeschooled our kids in first and second grade, so we send them to public school for kindergarten, and then we homeschool for first, second, and then back to public for third. And that's just been a really wonderful ability, just to spend extra time with them and to be part of them when they're young and easy to teach. And I think I just sort of started rambling there. But.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Because I was thinking it's such a natural, I think, experience, or organic is maybe a better word, how you interact with your children, that you know, not a lot of dads out there are like you. You know what I mean? Or of course, this is a very unique setup. You do see this a lot in Bloomington, but I'm from Indianapolis, and outside of a few areas, it's not typical to see a dad as involved as you are, or you know, taking your kids to important meetings, and so that your wife can work or whatever. You know, like this working together. It's just not common, and but I think that that's amazing. You know, and so yeah, I'm planning to share a couple of different videos. One is Troy Maynard, the How to Raise Viking Children, and then yourself around Father's Day. I want to post these just because I think that we need to share that more. So another thing that you do is you're a musician. I was just at Bloomington interviewing Chris Fredrickson yesterday, and I saw in the restroom, it was like, yes. And I was like, oh, you know, you'll be playing there. So how did that evolve? And talk to me about.
Well, I've been playing music. I took drum lessons as a kid, from third grade, and then ever since I moved out of my parents' house when I was in high school, I've never lived anywhere where it made sense to have a drum set. But I've always lived with a piano. And so I have
to pause for a moment. So I was, my ex-husband Chris, when we first met, his drums were in the dining room.
Right.
We did, you know. So before we got married, I was like, we need a table.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that won't last for that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I switched to piano, and then it's it's just it's just a wonderful part. It's definitely, you know, it's a part of my life where you just can't do it. You can't stop.
Yeah, you can't
not do it. It's just part of who you are. So
you play out in the community. Different. I know that you'll be at Bloomington, and I've seen you at is it Serendipity? Or it's been a while.
Yeah, I play. Yeah, big upcoming show is just released. I'll give you a copy. We just got our record. So a 12-inch vinyl record. Live with the Boogie 3, which is my trio. And it's Thursday, July 12th at the Blockhouse, 8 o'clock p.m. record release. So that's our big upcoming show.
Excellent. Yeah. That's great. It's just amazing to watch things grow. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I can't think of any other questions that I wanted to know.
Great.
But I know, other than to share about the Catholic Worker and to promote your upcoming album and to talk to you about being a dad, because I just think that's amazing, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to meet with me. I know you have an interview that you're getting ready to go into another family
with some prospective guests.
Yeah, which means you may have a new person who's experiencing homelessness come into your community, and that brought up another question. Gosh, I'm glad how does that work? How do people find Catholic Worker? How do they, if they were looking for a place to live, how does that process work?
Folks come pretty randomly. Most often, like, the folks at Shalom or whoever know that we exist, and so if there's a good candidate, they'll give us a call. But it really comes in waves. It's really interesting. There'll be a week there's a week where you have no open beds and you get 10 calls and you have to tell all 10 of them, sorry, we're full. And then you go, and then there's a month and you get one call. So it is interesting how people kind of how we rise and dip in public consciousness. But yeah, we get sort of references and calls from sort of all over. It's very
and you meet as a community to make a decision about
each person. And we right. And our main rules for hospitality is we don't take folks with untreated mental illness, and we don't take folks with untreated substance abuse issues. So that there are, as you know, there are a lot of people facing homelessness in Bloomington who fit those criteria. So our beds are never, our beds are always as full as we want them to be. But we do, that is like, the interview is basically to assess those situations. And then we just sort of make a judgment. And then we have lots of safeguards to, like, when you first enter, like, there's like a higher bar. We make you jump through a lot of hoops to make sure that you're able to jump through hoops, and then those get relaxed after a couple of weeks. And the guests are never able to be with the children in any kind of one-on-one situation, and we've divided and designed our space to make sure that that's easily accomplished. And so yeah, we have, we've been doing it now for, the Catholic Worker's been doing it for 80 years. My wife and I have been doing it for about 10 years in Bloomington and 12 altogether. And
wow. I noticed that on the outside. I'll take a picture
our
on
community
my way
just
out.
had our 10th anniversary,
Which
the Bloomington
is
Catholic Worker. Yeah.
And you started out with one house, and now you have 4.
We started in a townhouse in the Timber Ridge neighborhood on the south side by Bloomington South. And my wife and I, there was a couple who lived upstairs, and my wife and I moved into the basement, and then we had a single guy facing homelessness sleeping on the couch on the main floor.
Wow.
And that was the start of the community.
That's the beginning.
That was 10 years ago. Yep.
That's amazing. It just goes to show that just a simple accommodation though can help someone. And I feel like just being around a family and being feeling a sense of family, it's healing. It's just so very healing. And I'm happy to know you, and I'm grateful for all the work that you guys do. And I know sometimes we don't hear thanks enough, and I know you don't need thanks. I know that because I know you, but I'm one of those people too. I don't need thanks. It's just what I do, and I know that you're the same way. But thanks for all you do, and I appreciate you, and thanks for letting me interview you today.
It's been a delight.
All
Thank you.
Until next time, thanks.